the weather forecast with Akenugas.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to join me once again on this edition of the weather forecast. I hope you had a profitable day. Between tonight and tomorrow morning, we expect a generally humid weather with an 80% chance of heavy precipitation in some parts of the Adamawa, West and the South regions. We may have as low as 17 degrees in the Northwest region, as low as 20 degrees in the center with the littoral and Southwest regions expecting as low as 23 to 24 degrees. Detailing in the Adamawa region this evening, there may be heavy precipitation in all the major towns, and this experience will progress till morning except for the town of Minganga. Next, we take you over to the west, where this evening there may be heavy rainfall in all the major towns, and this experience will progress till morning in all the major towns of the west. Lastly, we take you to the south, where this evening there may be heavy precipitation except for the town of Ambam, and this heavy rainfall will progress till morning in all the major towns of the south. To protect yourself and others against the coronavirus, avoid hugging, stay away from congested areas, and in case of symptoms, call the number 1510. Have a good night. Prime Minister Joseph John Gote confirms the 1st of June as official resumption date for schools and universities in Cameroon. This was in a declaration today after exchanging with school authorities. The entire declaration in this newscast. School officials and council authorities ensure the safety of pupils of examination classes. Disinfection sessions are made and measures reinforced to respect hygiene and physical distancing recommendations. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those are the headlines of the 7:30 News. Prime Minister Joseph John Gote has been meeting with vice-chancellors and rectors of state universities to make a final assessment of measures to guarantee the safe return of students on the date of June 1. Focus on today's meeting between the head of government and the university administrators was the scrutiny of methods to protect learners and the respect of physical distancing. Christian Cheatam has the details.
Never has the resumption of classes generated such high interest and resolute commitment at the top level of government. Never has the safety of learners come under such intense scrutiny. Despite the numerous consultations organized to calibrate the resumption of classes so far, Prime Minister Joseph John Gote decided to meet with vice-chancellors and rectors once more to make a final reality check of the situation on the ground before the indicative date of June 1st, which is slowly becoming the definitive date of resumption. In front of Prime Minister Joseph John Gote and the Assembly of Rectors and Vice-Chancellors, the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, Jacques Famendongo, enunciated measures which have been put in place to ensure the safety of students. He said the universities are ready to apply barrier measures such as the daily decontamination of amphitheaters and study grounds, the respect of spacing norms, and the installation of sanitation kits.
I can tell to the parents that the campus will be with health security. There will be no problem in the campuses of the private and the public universities of Cameroon. We have no problem. Students must come in the campus, and the campus, all the universities are ready for Monday, the 1st of June.
The Prime Minister has said the decision to resume classes on June 1st has not been taken lightly. He said the government is aware of the dangers posed by the coronavirus, but is positive that if measures put in place are respected scrupulously, then studies can proceed normally. Joseph John Gote has therefore enjoined the university administrators to be uncompromising in the application of safety measures at all levels. He has urged them to communicate with parents and stakeholders of university education in Cameroon in order to reassure everyone that the safety of learners is top priority.
After today's consultations, Prime Minister Joseph John Gote, in a declaration, emphasized that the resumption of schools will be conducted in the strict respect of safety measures put in place. He also announced the extension of barrier measures against COVID-19 in Cameroon for a further 2 weeks. Here's the full declaration.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the wake of the message to the nation by the head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, on 19th May 2020, the government proceeded on the occasion of the cabinet meeting of Thursday, 28th May 2020, to review the response strategy against the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon. At the end of the discussions following the reports presented by the various ministers concerned, it emerged that the number of people testing positive for COVID-19 has risen sharply in recent weeks. As of 28 May 2020, there were 5,356 confirmed cases of COVID-19, including 177 deaths. This evolution is due, among other things, to the laxity in the respect of barrier gestures and to indiscipline observed among many of our fellow citizens. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 patients who have recovered their health is constantly rising and stands at 3,326 cases out of the patients who tested positive. This is proof that the strategy implemented by the government under the impulsion of the head of state should be pursued. In this connection, the Minister of Public Health has been instructed to increase the accommodation capacity of health facilities for coronavirus patients, particularly in rural areas. He is equally required to involve district hospitals as well as private health facilities that meet the required standards to manage COVID-19 patients. During the same cabinet meeting, the ministers in charge of education reported on preparations for the resumption of classes on the 1st of June 2020 as set by the President of the Republic. Their reports highlighted the health and educational measures already taken or planned to ensure the safe return of pupils and students to schools and university campuses. The cleaning and disinfection of the various establishments have begun and will be stepped up with the support of the specialized services of the Ministry of Public Health. In addition, at the behest of the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation, protective masks and hand sanitizers have been produced locally and made available to the administrations of the education sector. Other health kits have been distributed to schools thanks to a special donation from the head of state or within the framework of initiatives led by private partners, local elite, and especially the regional and local authorities whose action on the field is laudable. Taking into account the specificity of higher education and the volume of enrollments recorded thereof, I held a working session this Friday, 29th May, with the heads of state-owned universities. This meeting revealed that the measures have been put in place to ensure that lectures resume on the 1st of June 2020. Furthermore, measures to ensure the health and safety of the students and staff of all state universities have been taken. Ladies and gentlemen, considering the assurances given by the ministers in charge of education, and in order to complete the 2019-2020 academic year, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, has decided that the resumption of classes at all levels of education as well as in professional schools and vocational centers will take place on Monday, June 1st, throughout the national territory. I would like to point out, with regard to primary education, that this resumption concerns exclusively the pupils of Class 6 for the Anglophone subsystem and cours moyenne deuxième année for the French-speaking subsystem. As regards secondary education, the resumption of classes will be gradual, starting with upper 6th and terminal from the 1st of June 2020. After this, students of the other examination classes will follow. That is, première and troisième for the Francophone subsystem and Form 5 for the Anglophone subsystem. For this second group, the specific modalities of resumption will be communicated by the Minister of Secondary Education. I would like to point out that in line with the instructions of the head of state, nursery school pupils and intermediate classes in primary and secondary schools are not concerned by the resumption of classes on the 1st of June 2020. As I mentioned earlier, the end-of-year report cards established on the basis of the evaluations of the first and second terms of the 2019-2020 school year will be given to parents according to a schedule to be defined by the heads of the schools concerned. Furthermore, I would like to point out that the practical sports exercises provided for in the official examinations for primary and secondary education are cancelled because of the fact that they bring together large numbers of students on the same site, and that could increase the risk of contamination. As far as higher education is concerned, the programming of lectures, tutorials, and practical work will be carried out according to the flexibility specific to each university and in accordance with the adjusted academic calendar. As for professional schools and vocational training centers, the resumption of classes will consider the specificities of these institutions at the behest of the relevant ministries and head of institutions. In order to ensure the protection of learners and teachers, the ministers concerned have been instructed to ensure that protective masks are worn and that social distancing is respected on school and university campuses. They should also take useful and necessary measures to make available the required sanitary kits such as hand sanitizers, thermoflashes, and hand washing buckets in each establishment. In any case, I urge all ministers in charge of education and training to maintain dialogue with the entire educational community, parents, teachers associations, and teachers unions for the success of the activities being undertaken. I also call on them to intensify communication in order to raise awareness on the measures taken to ensure the protection of our children. For that purpose, they have to keep me informed of any difficulties faced on the ground so that we can find appropriate solutions. Lastly, given the situation of the COVID-19 pandemic in Cameroon, the President of the Republic has also decided to extend for an additional 15 days and possibly renewable the measures still in force, which he took on 17th of March 2020 as part of the fight against this virus. I would like to conclude my statement by reassuring the entire population and the education community in particular that the government is doing everything possible to ensure that classes resume calmly and serenely throughout the national territory on Monday, 1st June 2020. As the head of state prescribed on the 19th of May, let us not give in to panic, but rather show solidarity. Let us all remain mobilized in the fight against COVID-19 by systematically wearing masks in public places and respecting barrier gestures. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
With these assurances and extensions given by governments, examination classes in the basic and secondary education sectors are set to resume classes next Monday, June 1, 2020. In the littoral region, the administrative staff of schools have convened preparatory meetings to ensure that their premises are properly disinfected ahead of the resumption. Scholar Maloke paints a vivid picture of what obtains in some schools in the economic capital, Douala, in this report.
It is going to be a back to school unlike the normal ones, as it comes within the context of the coronavirus pandemic. As such, school administrators are holding last-minute preparatory meetings for a COVID-19 risk-free school period.
We have to put a certain number of things in place so that when students are coming on Monday, they should meet everything well prepared. That is why we are holding this meeting today.
In primary schools like Le Petit Monde, focus this Friday is on cleanup and disinfection, in addition to other measures taken by the school authorities.
We have separated the children in 3 different classes according to the number of 24 per class. So we have 3 operational classes, class 6, that is 2 Kumoende and 1 class 6. And also we have appointed teachers in those various classes. And those teachers will be assisted by class 5 teachers, that is Kumoen 1 and Kumoen 2. According to material measures, we have bought buckets, taps, soaps, and the school also has provided face masks so that the teaching learning process will go on safely and in a very conducive atmosphere.
As last-minute preparations reach fever pitch for a COVID-19 free school period, the city of Douala is also vibrating as taxis and commercial bike riders are set for Monday 1.
In the Northwest region, secondary schools in Bamenda are about 95% ready to receive both learners and instructors next Monday. The assurance was given by the Northwest Regional Delegate for Secondary Education, Wilfred Wambengdong, after touring 14 colleges to check the anti-COVID-19 measures put in place. Meanwhile, the Bamenda 2 Council has also engaged in disinfection exercises, as Eric Langmiawofu reports.
Soldiers of the Army Rescue Unit in Bamenda disinfecting some classrooms and buildings in the Bamenda 2 municipality. They are using this truck with a capacity of 8,000 liters of water mixed with chlorine to disinfect the classrooms. Others are using spraying cans to clean the windows and doors and walls of the school. This operation is supervised by the Mayor of Bamenda 2 Council.
We must disinfect schools to avoid, because we've done the necessary sanitization. So to sanitize is not enough, but we have to sanitize and also do the action in the field. So that is why we are here today, to make sure that we are sure of the students that will soon kick off from classes, because at home they've been well protected. We are not sure at the level of classes, so that's why we have been forced to go to all the schools within the municipality to disinfect, to be sure to prepare the resolution on Monday.
The move started over in GBHS Bamenda and was followed closely by PCHS Mancon, whose principal expressed gratitude.
We cannot do without this, so the effort by the council is very wonderful.
When the team arrived GBHS downtown, its principal, Dr. Dita Fon George, said they are prepared for the effective start of classes.
It was going to be a heavy burden on the parents to be able to disinfect the school so that their children can come back and complete their exams.
In each of the schools, the officials received face masks, tap buckets, disinfectants and cartons of soup from the Bamenda 2 Council.
Still on the fight against the coronavirus, the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, has come to the assistance of Cameroon with preventive wash kits worth 780 million CFA francs donated. The material is intended for distribution to schools and professional training centers in 6 regions of the country. The consignment was received today by the Minister of Basic Education, Professor Laurent Serge Etoningwa. Iwane Epole tells us more.
The donation of the COVID-19 wash kits worth 780 million CFA francs by the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, targets young people in the basic, secondary, higher and professional institutions of learning in the country.
More than 8,000 schools that are in 6 priority regions. When I say priority, it's in terms of our program of cooperation with the government of Cameroon. It's composed of buckets equipped with taps and of jerry cans for the storage of water. We want to facilitate the back to school campaign.
UNICEF resident representative in Cameroon handed over the hygiene items to the Minister of Basic Education, Laurent Serge Etundingwa, who represented the government. He was accompanied by a number of other ministers.
It is very timely indeed. The local population is doing its own, and the international population is also doing its own. We can only thank UNICEF very much. All these trucks are going to different regions of the country, and so we thank them very, very much. The school is resuming on Monday, and the key message is that everybody should send their children to school.
On the occasion, officials of the Cameroon Red Cross carried out a practical demonstration on how to sanitize our premises in order to curb the propagation of the coronavirus.
There is a steady increase in the number of Cameroonians who have received or recovered from the coronavirus. Public health experts attribute these results to the treatment protocol respected by patients. In spite of these successes, many continue to be infected. Tonight we focus on some of the reasons of this spread, as well as the difficulties encountered by the population to get screened. Baldwin Sama updates us on these with his guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam, at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther Kim, and welcome to the Public Health Emergency Operations Center, where, as you rightly said, we have an increase in the number of Cameroonians who have recovered from COVID-19 in the country. And just this Friday, we have 115 confirmed cases of recoveries from COVID-19 in Cameroon. And still this Friday, 8 Cameroonians have died for COVID-19, and 303 Cameroonians have been infected with the virus. The statistics were made available to us a while ago during a press briefing by officials of this Public Health Emergency Operations Center, who told us that all these figures concern the 10 different regions of the country affected, talking about the spread of COVID-19. And tonight, with our guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam, who is a virologist, we shall be looking at some of the nitty-gritties surrounding the screening process of COVID-19 in the country. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, sir.
Testing for COVID-19 is very important, given that it paves the way for the treatment of a potential COVID-19 patient. What exactly is the situation as far as the testing capacity of Cameroon is concerned?
So, following decentralization by the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Malauda Malashi, now in Cameroon, 9 out of the 10 regions are able to test for COVID-19. And the only region left is the South region, which, for example, will be using the antigen testing. And out of these 9 regions, there are also regions wherein we have a high number of laboratories doing COVID-19 testing, like the Central region, where we have 5 laboratories covering this high burden region. And we also know, thanks to this testing capacity, we are able to put patients on treatment on time, because for COVID-19, there is need for a timeless treatment.
And finally, Doctor, talking about the turnover time as far as screening for COVID-19 is concerned, to have results is 24 hours. But unfortunately, more and more Cameroonians have been complaining that they have noticed some delays as far as having access to their results after screening is concerned. What exactly is happening, and what has been done to overcome this difficulty?
Yes, effectively, in our context, COVID-19 testing is done 24 hours in our different COVID-19 laboratories. So results should be delivered the next 24 hours after the sample has been collected. But we encountered some delays in delivering these results to patients. So what we have done, since COVID-19 requires a timeless intervention for those who are positive, now we are delivering results by SMS. Delivering result by SMS means once the sample has been tested, the patient will receive an SMS in his phone directly the next day, in such that if this patient is positive, we will be able to enroll this patient quickly on treatment. Therefore, we are calling upon everybody who have been tested for COVID-19, check your phone, check your SMS to be sure you receive our message. Also, if you have any clinical sign on COVID-19, don't get worried. Testing is free. Testing is in almost every region now in Cameroon. You get tested, the next day or two, you have access to your result, in such that the early we test, the early we detect those who can transmit and we prevent transmission. The early we also test, the early we are able to manage those who are in a severe or in a critical cases, and we will then reduce the rate of mortality in our context.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for being available as a guest on the 7:30 newscast. During the press briefing, public health experts used the opportunity to talk about one of the key points raised by the President of the Republic during his address to the nation last May 19, talking about effectiveness for the health centers in the ongoing treatment process of COVID-19 patients in the country, and that's why they told us that the Ministry of Public Health is looking forward to working closely with some private health facilities in the country to increase the number of treatment centers for COVID-19 in Cameroon, and working closely with these private health facilities means on a contract basis, so as to see how these health facilities, private ones, will help the nation treat COVID-19 patients. And they equally use the opportunity to call on Cameroonians to be responsible enough to be each other's keeper, to report suspected cases of COVID-19. For example, we should be responsible, and if you discover that you have any symptoms of the COVID-19, you should get yourself screened and to avoid any further contamination. And they have equally informed us that from this Saturday, they have opened a screening center in Yaoundé. That is at the multipurpose sports complex for civil servants and staff of some parastatals here in the nation's capital city, for them to get themselves screened and to know their status. As far as COVID-19 is concerned, they are going to work on a timetable that will be available later today or early tomorrow morning. So the take-home message from here, Esther, is that 115 Cameroonians have recovered from COVID-19 this Friday. 303 got infected with COVID-19, and 8 Cameroonians died of COVID-19 this Friday. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you very much, Borden Sama. We must say that Cameroonians remain hopeful that they can get tested when they want, and that they can also have their results as soon as possible. Meantime, a national mobile caravan to sensitize the population on the deadly coronavirus has been launched by the Minister of Communication. Minister Rene Emmanuel Sari handed over the material to the representatives of the 7 councils of Fundi Division and emphasized that the mobile caravan will reinforce the communication strategy to stall the spread of COVID-19. Gilbert Ongene reports on the initiative supported by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education as well as UNICEF.
These mobile caravans will soon become a common sight in most parts of Cameroon. This other action comes to reinforce already existing social communication strategies on the ground.
Since the measures taken by the government were relaxed, you have noticed that some of our compatriots have shown some laxity in the respect of those measures. So I think with the use of these caravans, we think that we will spread those measures very far.
The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, through its mobile animation teams, community mediators and conscripts of the Civil Service Agency for Participation in Development, is ready to accompany the anti-COVID-19 sensitization caravans.
We think that our our teams will contribute to bring this message to proximity to the population in conformity with the messages conceived by the Minister of Communication.
Other strategic partners like UNICEF, which provided the megaphones, are also coming in with their support.
It's time to boost again our communication activities, and especially in the most remote parts of the country.
The mobile caravans, which will be introduced gradually to all councils of the country, is part of government response strategy to the coronavirus.
An indication that government is pressing for the complete halt of the coronavirus infections is the setting up of makeshift health centers to cater for infected cases. At the Mvogbi neighborhood in Yaoundé, the erstwhile Okra supermarket has been equipped with 300 beds with breathalyzers. Meanwhile, at the Yaoundé Military Stadium and other provisional sites, health personnel are being drilled on how to handle coronavirus-positive patients. Baldwin Sama reports.
A feast and isolation center at the ex-Oka supermarket that looks visibly ready to welcome critical COVID-19 cases, with simply finishing touches ongoing.
Oxygen pipes are available for complicated cases, likewise respirators. The different units are well defined for men, women and children, and they are all well equipped and spacious.
Nous avons déjà reçu les derniers équipements que nous attendions.
We have already received equipment that we were waiting for to welcome patients because the building itself has been refurbished. We are just carrying out finishing touches.
There is a section for health professionals for work and rest purposes with a makeshift restaurant equally available. 300 beds of different qualities will be used here with routine supervision from officials of the Ministry of Public Health and the Presidency of the Republic. At the military stadium, only persons with mild COVID-19 symptoms will be treated here. Over 200 beds are available and ready to welcome patients. Personnel are being drilled on how they will welcome and take care of patients throughout their stay here.
At the Endoscopic Center for Human Reproduction in Crasser, First Lady Chantal Biya has reached out to the mothers and babies conceived through in vitro fertilization. A consignment of basic commodities have been distributed with calls made for women with reproduction difficulties not to despair. Staff Lady Enanga Kebi covered the events for the 7:30 News.
Another day of celebration at Crasser as Professor Jean-Marie Cassia came out of the operation block to the main entrance to welcome an envoy from Mrs. Chantal Biya. 4 suitcases destined for 2 babies and 2 mothers, the most recent to have their babies thanks to the technique of in vitro fertilization.
The fact that the head of state and his wife have decided to put their confidence to a medical team staff like us, we all are very, very grateful for what they did and what they did for those women and those couples who are coming to attend this clinic.
At the word of Mrs. Chinda from Marwa, the joy was enormous. Like a dream, she received a bouquet of fresh flowers and 2 suitcases for her baby and herself, all from Mrs. Chantal Biya.
Thanks the presidency and his wife for this hospital give us to help some couple who are in the difficult of having children.
Next in line was Mrs. Deldael Blanche, a Cameroonian from Belgium. She too was exceptionally happy and to be part of this historic event that portrays Mrs. Chantal Biya as a generous and humane character, a true philanthropist, ready to share love, solidarity, and happiness with women and the society at large.
I really thank you, the First Lady, because without her we will not have our 2 babies today. And we also thank God for that and the team of Professor Cassia.
The results from Crasser are encouraging vis-a-vis the in vitro fertilization, and like every woman who has lived the happy experience, their appeal is for women or couple with procreation problems to have faith. They are all grateful to the President of the Republic and his wife, Mrs. Chantal Biya, for the gift of Crasser that is today recognized both nationally and internationally.
Away from that goodwill gesture, the Ministry of Transport will, as from Monday, June 1, commence the strict control of commuters on the respective barrier measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Minister Jean-Enes Masena Ngale Bibehe, accompanied by stakeholders in the transport sector, arrived at the conclusion today during a meeting, as we hear in this report by Luma Slim Davis.
On Monday, all roads in the capital city will lead to the various schools as students and pupils of examination classes resume studies. Expectations are high, and the need to respect the barrier measures against the coronavirus pandemic heightens.
Those individuals that board transport vehicles without the mask should be severely sanctioned. The minister have announced that he has addressed the issue with the National Gendarmerie and the police force for them to double the control, the vigilance, to sanction all those that will be found on board transport vehicles without their mask. They should be severely sanctioned. And if there are also drivers found without their mask, those vehicles are going to be impounded and sanctions are going to be severe.
While stricter controls have been suggested, traveling agencies and township taxi drivers are aware of their responsibilities.
We practice normally the washing of hands inside the waiting room. There is the normal social distancing. Those that are having children, they make sure they sit on the same place. But even inside the bus, we oblige social distancing and we oblige everybody to put on their masks.
Accusations are levied on some taxi drivers and commercial motorcycle riders for negligence in the respect of the barrier measures against COVID-19. But some, however, are conscious.
I'm ready to carry the children to school. Overload is not good because at times we carry children and then we go and make an accident. You have caused problem with the family. I don't want to carry more than because I need money. I always wear my mask.
The measure concerning coronavirus, we are prepared for that. We cannot carry students who doesn't have mask.
All is set for Monday school resumption, and school gates will be flung open to receive students and pupils.
In other news, youth in Cameroon can now access the National Youth Observatory through a registration card instituted by the organ. The national coordinator of the program has reiterated that with the issuing of the registration card, youth can avail themselves of training and job opportunities. Beatrice Losamba tells us more.
Youth interest in the biometric youth card has been visible through a steady increase in demand 2 years since it was launched.
We have delivered not less than 1,000 and more biometric youth cards, and some youths have benefited of our services offered by that card.
The card has granted access to some advantages the government and its partners have reserved for young people through its 3-year emergency youth program.
The biometric youth card is an important tool for the promotion of youth, and also an important tool for the governance. This biometric youth card will credibilize the status of young people. Services are offered to young people and is reaching them.
Within the years, access to the advantages and services the card brings has been made snappy, attracting more users. Overwhelmed by the demand for the biometric youth cards, the Ministry of Youth Affairs wants to decentralize its production at the level of councils.
Thanks to the 3-year special youth plan, we can now have all the materials, and that's why we thought that we should start training of the trainers of trainers, so that they can go on the field and build capacity of other collaborators who are in charge of that sector.
The dream is to get all of Cameroon's 9 million young people own a biometric youth card to enjoy the opportunities this government reserves for its youth's growth.
Still in development news, 11 projects developed by former and current students of the African Institute of Computer Sciences, IAI Cameroon, have been presented to the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Monona Futsu. This was via a video conference today in Yaoundé. From the school campus, the resident representative, Armand Claude Abanda, watched the ICT engineers present their COVID-19 solutions. Yoti Kaleli Songe has an insight into some of the projects in the following report.
Digital thinkers presenting IT solutions to COVID-19. All the way in France is Mekongo Yannick, an ex-student of EIE Cameroon, exhibiting his application We Money, which facilitates money transfers with the help of a quick response code. Back home, Minkada Michel showcases Labores, an application developed to provide patients with electronic versions of their lab results.
We also had some projects that were evolving around agricultural sectors. It can bring upon another way, another means for farmers to sell their product if and only if the pandemic goes to disturb the means of selling.
In all, 11 projects have been presented via this video conferencing platform.
The responses they are proposing within their project could help to fight against COVID-19 because it facilitates the social distanciation. For example, they have taken commitment to accompany them to set up their business plan so that they should be financed by our different programs, and particularly the National Integration Fund or the 3-year special youth plan.
Watching products of EIE Cameroon come up with such ideas has left positive reviews.
I am very proud of my student today, and I would like to thank the Minister of Youth, His Excellency Monona Futu, for his disponibility.
And ICT remains the tool that they will use to eject COVID-19.
The board chair of the Public Contracts Regulatory Board, Aliyu Dewa, has been commissioned into office. He was installed by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of public contracts, Ibrahim Tabamala. He was exhorted to use his rich professional experience to ensure the respect of norms and ethics in the award and execution of public contracts in Cameroon. Joyce Tata has the details.
May 11, 2020 presidential decree appoints Aliyu Dewa as board chair of the Public Contracts Regulatory Board. May 29, 18 days later, he officially takes the command at the helm of the institution. The 58-year-old civil administrator is a graduate of the National School of Administration and Magistracy. At his installation ceremony, he was presented some of the urgent tasks which await him.
He will have to watch and make sure the information system of public contract is well handled, the rehabilitation of the agency's headquarters building, and ensuring the professionalization of its personnel.
Challenges which meet an optimistic official.
I'd like to thank the head of state for the confidence bestowed on me, and alongside my collaborators, we will get to work so we bring a special touch to the structure.
A native of Mayo Dale from the Adamawa region, married and a father of many, Mr. Aliyu Dewa says he is determined to properly make use of his knowledge as a long-time personnel in the sector to step up the output of the Public Contracts Regulatory Board.
On today's editorial, a new organizational chart of the Telecommunications Regulatory Board has been adopted. This was during a two-day board meeting, which also saw the appointment of some personnel to key posts of responsibility and the recruitment of new staff. The session was presided over by the pioneer female board chair, Professor Justine Difo. Baldwin Sama has the details.
A happy end for board members of the Telecommunications Regulatory Board, given the number of key issues discussed for the proper running of the institution. Board members expressed satisfaction with quality results produced by the Regulatory Board and proceeded with the recruitment of some new staff.
Together responsible and redeemable of the results of the enterprise. And then we also recruit. We proceed to a few nominations because we have to give a new dynamic in this enterprise, and that is the reason why today we are really glad that all the members of the board have validated the project of resolution gave to us by the general manager.
Board members examined and took resolutions related to the allocation of results of the 2017 and 2018 financial years and equally adopted the organizational chart of the Telecommunications Regulatory Board. The board members equally worked on the legal framework while adopting staff regulations of the regulatory boards. Internal rules and regulations of the Telecommunications Regulatory Board were equally adopted, with the appointment of staff to key posts of responsibility equally effected. At the end of the deliberations, the President of the Board of Directors expressed her satisfaction with the climate that prevailed during the deliberations, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, she congratulated the General Manager of the Telecommunications Regulatory Board on the quality of the documents presented and the sincerity of the information contained therein. For 2 days, Professor Justine Difo worked closely with senior staff of the board on the new legal framework for public institutions, as she remains the first lady to be board chair of this institution, as it was her first board meeting ever since she was appointed.
On today's obituary, the Cameroon Police Corps has paid its last respects to one of its members, Police Commissioner Serge Brekmo, who died last April 26. The military honours at the National Advanced Police School in Yaoundé was an occasion to salute the memory of a man who served brilliantly for decades. Details with Emmanuel Anvemnu.
Here he goes on his last journey to eternity. Police Commissioner Serge Bregmore quits the scene at 47, having served the police corps for close to 2 decades. This native of Mayodinai in the far north region got admitted into the National Advanced Police School in 2001. Upon graduation in 2003, he was immediately posted to serve the Republic of Cameroon at the Department of Territorial Surveillance in Yaoundé. In 2011, he was promoted to the rank of Senior Superintendent of Police before adding another star on his shoulders 8 years after as Commissioner of Police in 2019. The funeral hymn is sung in his honor, and his boss, Police Commissioner Prote Ebendengve, representing the Delegate General for National Security, pays him last respect. The 47-year-old, before his death, was the head of the Operations Unit of Territorial Surveillance in the South region in Ebulova. He will be interned in Bala 3, Yaoundé 1 subdivision this Saturday.
That ends this edition of the 7:30 News. But before we go, a reminder, Prime Minister Joseph John Gute has confirmed the 1st of June as the official resumption date for schools and universities in Cameroon. He has also announced an extension of barrier measures by 2 weeks. More news will be coming up at 8:30 p.m. with Karine Odiviabit. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. God willing. Meantime, have a beautiful weekend and stay safe. Good night.